Hello girls, so today our topic is going to be consideration. Okay, so I have been teaching you all the various essentials of a valid contract. So one of the essential of a valid contract says if there is no consideration there is no contract, right? So we are going to see in detail today the various essentials of a valid consideration. Alright, so before we go in details with what are the essentials of a valid consideration, we will see what is the meaning of consideration, what is the definition of consideration. Okay, so consideration in simple words is nothing but a payment or a reward, that which is made in a contract. So before I explain the definition for you, we'll give you an example to make you clearly understand what is consideration actually. So in this example, there's one Mr. A and one Mr. B. A's obligation is to supply certain goods to Mr. B. So what do you think is the obligation of B? The obligation of B is to make payment for those goods that which is supplied. So this payment or reward or compensation that which is going to be made by B to A for having supplied the goods is what is called as consideration. Okay, so we'll move on to the definition of consideration. Consideration is nothing but the price for which the promise of the other is bought. Or rather, in technical words, it is called as quid pro quo. That is something given or taken for something in return. Okay, some compensation or reward or consideration is of some value in the eyes of the law. So therefore, whenever an obligation is executed by one of the parties, the other party is supposed to compensate for the obligations that which is executed by the party in the contract, and that is what is called as consideration. Is that clear? So in simple words, consideration is nothing but it is a payment or a reward which is made for the obligation that which is executed. Like I told, he supplied the goods, for in return B has to make the payment. That is what is consideration. We'll see the legal rules to consideration now, otherwise called as essentials of a valid consideration. Now again, to call your consideration a valid consideration, valid meaning that which is accepted by the court of law. Okay, so to call your consideration a valid consideration, so you need to hold on to these rules and regulations of consideration. You have to follow these rules and regulations of consideration. So we'll see in detail each one of these rules or essential of a valid consideration. So first one is the desire of the promisor. So what is the desire? The meaning of desire is nothing but the will and the wish. Okay, so promisor is the one who promises to make the payment. Okay, so as far as consideration is concerned, the one who makes the payment is the promisor, and one who accepts the payment is called as the promisee. So here the first point says consideration must be made at the desire of the promisor, at the will and wish of the one who makes the payment. Okay, I'll give you an example to make this point more clear. So there is one person who, after receiving a permission from the mayor, builds certain shops in a marketplace. Okay, and then he rents out these shops to another person. Say the one who built the shops is X, and the one to whom the shops are rented is Y. Okay, so according to this contract of rent, it is understood that the payment or the reward is the rent in return for using the shops. Okay, I'm making it clear again. X is the owner of the shops. He builds certain shops in the market and he rents out those shops to Y. So for having using the shop or use the shop, what should Y do? He should make the payment of rents regularly. But what was the demand of X was not only the rent but also a commission on all the articles that which is sold in the market in that particular shop. He says, no, you're not supposed to make the rent payment alone, but you're also supposed to also make the payment of commissions on each and every article that which is sold in the shop. So here what happens is Y denies to make the payment of commission. Okay, he only agrees to make the payment of rent. So this is what is called as a desire of the promisor. The promisor is Y, who is supposed to make the payment for the having used the shop. So his desire is only to make the payment of rent, not the payment of commission. So this is what is the meaning of this point: at the desire of the promisor and not by the force of the promisee. Okay, next one we will see is consideration may move from the promisee or any other person. Okay, consideration may move from the promisee or any other person. Okay, so let me give you an example to make this point more clear. So there are three parties in this contract. One is the old lady, and the other one is the old lady's daughter, and the third party in the contract is the old lady's sister, who happens to be the aunt of the daughter. Okay, so there is a contract between these three parties. The old lady says, I will make over all the property to you, my daughter, but provided you will make a compensation, a payment of compensation every month to my sister for her caretaking. So the daughter agrees for this, and the old lady makes over the properties to the daughter, and the daughter is supposed to now make every month